Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're taking a look at the new Boarding Actions book. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. Alright, so after a whole year of Games Workshop not releasing anything for Boarding Actions, we have a new book consolidating all the rules, along with a bunch of new additional missions. The real question is, though, after not supporting it for a year, is this just too little too late? Let's take a look at what Games Workshop is offering. The myriad missions of Warhammer 40,000 Boarding Actions. A few weeks ago, we announced that the brutal close quarters warfare of Boarding Actions was returning to the world of Warhammer 40,000, and it's time to look at one of the main features, the missions. Previously, a vast array of missions were spread across the Arks of Omen books, and some didn't play too nicely with new editions rules. They've all now been updated and collected in one place, allowing for radically different objectives and mission rules every time you play. In fact, there are a whopping 54 missions in this book alone, with shifting battlefields, narrative challenges, and multiplayer battles up to 4 players all included. Here are a few of our favorites. Alright, so it's important to note that there are 54 total missions in this book, and that they've also consolidated all the rules from the previous Arks of Omen books. So if you purchased all the Arks of Omen books, there's definitely going to be a limited amount of offering in this, although there are definitely going to be some updates and corrections. I think realistically, after a year of them putting out nothing, if you're playing Boarding Actions, if you're enjoying it, it's probably worth picking up this book. But to tell you the truth, the appeal of 54 missions is definitely cool and everything, but I'm not sure there's many people out there that have played 54 different games of Boarding Actions. So the idea of cramming 54 different missions into a book is probably unnecessary. And also that talks about the limited scope of what else is going to be available in the book itself. If there's 54 missions and each takes up a couple of pages, that's probably at least half the book. Now currently all of the Boarding Actions rules are free, and I'll put a link down below in the description if you want to check those out, give it a try. But with this new book going up on pre-order tomorrow, I think we can tell by the lack of effort that Games Workshop has put into Boarding Actions over the last year or so, that this was probably more of a money grab, especially with the Arks of Omen books. And realistically, it's probably a money grab once again. But I do know that some people play this and enjoy it. I actually like the idea of it. I think realistically, Games Workshop saw what Boarding Actions was, kind of taking away the vehicles and some of the more powerful big centerpiece units and focusing a little more on smaller squads, slightly different rules, and making it more of a character-based game is kind of the direction that they've been going with Combat Patrol. Now, you're not restricted to what you can take in Boarding Actions in the sense that you have to take an exact list, but you are restricted in what units are available to be taken, but you do still get to build your own army out of the limited amount of data sheets that are available in the game, which is mostly not using big walkers, monsters, stuff like that, with some exceptions. For instance, Tau can still take battle suits. You can still have some of the Primarch size characters like Abaddon the Despoiler. So there's still a ton of actual flavor. You can reenact battles from various Warhammer 40,000 lore. And overall, the idea of Boarding Actions is pretty cool. The terrain is absolutely phenomenal if you put in the time, prep it prior to painting. And it's really cool how quickly you can put it all together, break it down, and once broken down, how small the terrain actually is. Because it's really nice to be able to have some awesome three-dimensional terrain that doesn't take up an entire room because it can't be disassembled once it's put together. And with Boarding Actions, there's nice little clip system. The quality of the actual terrain is phenomenal. The detail, the interactivity, overall, I love the terrain. And I was really hopeful that Boarding Actions was going to take off. But to tell you the truth, after a year of not supporting it and the initial lack of interest outside of the quick money grab for the Arks of Omen books, it really just never caught on. So let's take a quick look at the missions featured in this article and see if Games Workshop can drum up a little bit of interest. Alright, so first we have Hull Breach, and it is a symmetrical mission. So there are symmetrical and asymmetrical missions in this game, which is pretty cool. Obviously, a symmetrical mission is going to make more of a balanced game, as where an asymmetrical mission is going to be more an attacker-defender type scenario. But oftentimes in narrative play, those can be a lot more fun, but they do sacrifice balance. The first category of missions and Boarding Actions are called symmetrical missions, designed to offer competitively minded players an equal battlefield where each side has the same rooms, hatchways, objectives, and mission rules. Just because these are the most balanced ways to play Boarding Actions, however, doesn't mean they aren't without their quirks. And that's why we love Hull Breach in particular. While both sides scuffle over control of some valuable data cores, the creaking structure of the ship can buckle and expose one of its compartments to the void, which is predictably hazardous for all involved. Not knowing when or where the breach will occur forces players to plan for the worst even as they scramble for objectives, and can twist the fortunes of an otherwise dominating player in moments. So definitely a cool and thematic idea right here. I like the idea of basically being in the middle of a mission and then suddenly a hull breach occurring that could completely throw things into chaos. So mission rule, deadly decompression. From the second battle round onward, at the start of the battle, the attacker rolls a d6 on a 3-up until the end of the battle. One of the compartments is vented to the void by a space battle going on outside. If a compartment is vented, the defender rolls 1d6 to determine which one. Close all open hatchways within the compartment, and each unit within it suffers a d3 mortal wounds. While the compartment is vented, compartment is selected to make a normal or advanced move. Until the end of the turn, subtract 1 from the move characteristic of models in that unit. Each time an attack is allocated to a model in a compartment, improve the armor penetration characteristic of the attack by 1. So pretty cool, some nice little thematic rules to go along with the game. It's going to definitely make some differences in what's taken on, as there's extra AP. You're going to suffer some mortal wounds if you're in the vented compartment, and also you're going to move a little bit slower. But the rules aren't so crazy that it's going to completely turn the game one-sided. So I like it, very thematic. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch, and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now, back to the video. Next, we have Take the Teleportarium, Campaign Mission. Boarding Actions contains the full rules for the Rock Besiege campaign first set in Arks of Omen Vashtor, which charts the Archfane's assault on the home of the Dark Angels. This campaign of linked missions can be played between any factions, and as a result of some missions affect the rules for others, while offering unique gameplay experiences inspired by the events of the book. Take the Teleportarium shakes things up by splitting apart the two boards that usually make up a Boarding Actions battlefield. While the fight for the crucial objective worth 15 victory points in the Engineerium takes place, units stranded in the Teleportarium side must clear enough space within the arcane structure to warp reinforcements over to the embattled comrades. It's a real tactical brain teaser, as losing any one side completely will be disastrous. But once units have warped out of the Teleportarium, they can never return. Alright, so normally you put the two boards together. In this case, you have two boards. Both people are going to be on the two boards, and you essentially have the ability to get from the one board to reinforce your forces on the second board. So again, pretty cool, pretty thematic. I like the idea of it. And campaigns are super fun if you have multiple people, even as small as 2, up to like a larger group, that are willing to commit to like a series of games over days, weeks, or months. So mission rules, separate locations. When setting up the battlefield, each game board represents a different location within the ship. It's not possible to move units from one game board to another unless using the active Teleportarium rule below. And units in one game board cannot affect units on the other. Active Teleportarium. At the start of the shooting phase, the player whose turn it is can select one unit from their army that is within the Teleportarium control zone, is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units, and is eligible to shoot. If they do, they can select one friendly unit within the Teleportarium and remove it from the battlefield. They then set the unit up on the battlefield anywhere within the Engineerium and not within 9 inches of all enemy units. Until the end of the phase, that unit within the Teleportarium control zone is not eligible to shoot. So basically, you get to the Teleportarium, you do like the equivalence of an action, and then you can teleport one of your units over to the other board to send reinforcements to help win the primary mission. So again, pretty cool, pretty thematic, definitely could be fun. I like the idea of this. And then the final mission Games Workshop is showing off here, Dark Voices multiplayer mission. Why play with just 2 people when you can play with 4? Boarding Actions contains 12 missions specifically designed for 3 or 4 players, and a few are as packed with mayhem and mirth as Dark Voices. Here, sinister whispers are beckoning your warlord in the safe zone in the center of the battlefield, with just one problem. Everyone else's warlords are also descending on the same point, and only one may stand when the dust settles. Define the Voices causes constant damage to your champion, so there's really nothing else for it but to throw them into the melee. In our experience, some devious deals between players are a great way to pick off the most imposing warlords first, but don't get distracted. Objectives still litter the battlefield, and cunning withdrawal might just win you the war, as everyone else bloodies themselves in the middle. So here we see the potential for up to 4 different players, all working to achieve their own goals, but the ability to make like a dark pact with someone else is always fun, always cool. So mission rules, killing zone. From the second battle round onwards, at the end of the battle round, for each warlord that is not wholly within the safe zone for that battle round, roll 1d6. On a 2 to 4, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 5, that unit suffers 2 mortal wounds. Mission objectives: bloody murder, progressive objective. Each warlord listens to the whispers in their minds. Sweet words that promise rewards and renown if they slay the commanders of enemy forces. Each time a model in a player's army destroys an enemy warlord, that player scores 15 victory points. If a player's warlord is destroyed by any other means, then all other players score 15 victory points. Fire off those boarding torpedoes, as Warhammer 40,000 boarding actions is available for pre-order from tomorrow. So pretty neat, pretty cool. 54 total missions. Definitely very thematic. The idea that you could play 2 to 4 players is also super cool. I like the symmetric and asymmetric missions as well. You got campaign mode and then of course multiplayer. So the real question is this going to be enough to revive boarding actions or to generate some new interest? Probably not, but I think for those people out there that were already interested in it but never pulled the trigger, or those people that have been playing it along the way, this is definitely a cool new supplement. Consolidation of rules and add some like added fun gameplay via the missions to the game. Also, I'm sure they're going to correct a couple of things and make the game a little more fun and balanced, as I'm sure there were issues in the initial stuff that made the game less than ideal. So let me know if you're excited about boarding actions, if you've been playing boarding actions along the way, or if you felt like this was just a total cash grab from Games Workshop and the fact that they haven't supported it for the last year is completely disheartening. Always like to hear back from you guys in the comments. And as always, special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the channel. Check out the link in the description to save 15% on Games Workshop products. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and I've got all the boarding action stuff, but I've never even played. And I'm out of here.